Welcome to the Cottagers Podcast, a production by Cottage Pastures.
On this podcast, we discuss rural living, homesteading, and small-scale farming.
You'll hear conversations and interviews about the realities of modern life and returning to the land.
I'm Matthew.
And I'm Carissa.
We're the founders of Cottage Pastures and your hosts on the Cottagers Podcast. Okay, so one thing that's really unique about living on the land, homesteading, farming, that you kind of know is happening before you get into it, but you don't really understand until you go through a few seasons, is that the way the cycle of the seasons work is it naturally imposes like humility and like opportunities for temperance on you. And that's something we've been experiencing more and learning more about recently.
Yeah. So on this episode, that's actually what we're going to get into a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So why don't you maybe just kind of lead us off and talk about that a little bit? So like we're coming out of winter, springtime is basically here now. And I think we're feeling some of that absence of absence of abundance coming out of winter. I feel like pantries are kind of drying, things are emptying out.
Well, one thing that we've done since we made the move out here to this land and this level of homesteading is that we have really tried to shift towards eating majority what we grow. But I also, if I'm buying from the grocery store, I'm almost always buying what I would have in my pantry had we been able to grow enough of it. Basically, things that are seasonal and that we can grow in our climate. So there's other things that I get that are like luxury items, like citrus fruits, and we use it sparingly, like you would if you were shipping this kind of stuff in.
Right.
But we're at that point in the season where everything that we did grow from the previous season is we're running out. Mm-hmm. And we are looking forward to like having fresh produce and new meats. We just sent in animals for processing, and we still have some more that we need to process ourselves. And so there's a lot of anticipation with spring and summer coming for what we'll be able to add to our kitchen.
Yeah, and I think it's something like, it takes a season or two to really get the systems and the processes underway, to get some of the novelty of growing things out of the way. Like this year, we're going to be growing a lot more, right? The farm is getting a lot, like just the farm portion of this is growing a lot more. But the homesteading side, like just for our family, there's a lot more coming too. One of the things we did this year, we purchased a huge amount of seed potatoes. We purchased a lot of perennial like trees and fruit plants. Even, do you remember that? We got some kiwis coming. Some like cold hardy kiwis. That's going to be kind of cool. A lot of onion sets. Like we've learned over the years, onion sets are a phenomenal way to grow onions. That's actually one of the things. If you were just saying, I want some wins on the farm or on the homestead, like just, you want some easy wins, grow things like tomatoes, peppers, and onion sets are so good because they're so easy to grow. You just drop it in the ground and basically come back and harvest it a few weeks later.
We probably say the same thing over and over again. We are big on growing root crops, potatoes, onions, garlic, things that store really easy, and they're very low maintenance. I don't feel like I hear people talk about these crops that much in like gardening content. Probably because they take up more space to grow in quantity. Even like pumpkins and squash, they store easy. They're high calorically, like that you can make it stretch really far.
Yeah.
But I just don't feel like I hear people talk about prioritizing those. They prioritize things that you need to process in order to be able to store, or it's kind of just seasonal, like cucumbers and tomatoes. You love to eat them in the summer. But you either have to process it and can it, or it's kind of done.
Well, that's probably part of the idea, though, kind of the conversation is, a shift in mindset. Like if you get to a point where you say, I want to, like you could do your gardens a couple of different ways. You could say, I want to grow just a little bit extra. I want the fun and the pleasure of growing some things and eating some fresh fruits and vegetables out of the garden. That's great. I think that people should do that. I think it's super fun to do, and I think that it's a great way of boosting even just like your involvement in nature in a very easy, simple way.
Mm-hmm.
If you take a step further and you say, hey, I want to supplement a significant portion of my diet, maybe you want to do it for the summertime or the easy part of like the growing season, like without storing food, that's awesome too. Once you get to the point where you say, hey, you know, we want to try to really work with the land and grow a majority of our calories for the entire year or for a significant portion of it, you do have to get into certain types of foods that maybe a little bit more less aesthetically appeasing to grow. Like potatoes, I think are really cool looking, but they take up a lot of space, or they can take up a lot of space. If you grow them like in the ground in mounds,
Mm-hmm.
there's safe spacing. There's ways you can safe spacing, safe space saving,
Space saving.
space saving. I can say the word. There are ways you can reduce the footprint and how much you're growing, and you can create enormous amounts of
Yeah.
yields.
Yeah, potatoes, you don't even have, like, you can container grow potatoes.
Straw
And so
bales,
you
all
can
kinds of
grow
ways.
up with potatoes
Hmm.
instead of having to have lots of space.
But you're still gonna
Similar things
grow a
with,
lot more, and then you're gonna get into like this,
yeah,
this either abundant harvest times where you're
yeah.
gonna bring in an enormous amount of crop, and then you gotta, store it or do something to help it like store for a long
Well, there's
time.
a lot. There's a lot of potatoes. I mean, at least we have a family of six. So, like, enough potatoes to feed our family for the
Yeah.
whole winter is a lot of
Well,
potatoes.
but the
But
other thing is, you would probably, if you said, I want to grow potatoes to eat, like to offer like a supplement your diet, that's probably more potatoes than most people would typically go eat if they were just buying everything from a grocery store. Because when you go to a grocery store, you typically have options of convenience on demand all year
mhm,
long, regardless of where you live. But if you are saying, I want to grow food from the earth where I live, it's going to restrict one, the things you can grow. And then it's going to, put you in a position where you're going to have to think, okay, hey, if I was going to grow food here to eat from this land, what would I grow that would sustain me through, a certain amount of the year?
mhm.
I mean, I think there's a reason why, like, realistically, like garlic, onions, and potatoes are staple food, tomatoes and peppers, like all those things I think they're staple foods because probably historically in many cultures they grew in abundance. And then that's why we have all these foods that are kind of derivatives of them.
Yeah. Well, even, I mean, I don't know. I have really shifted the way that I cook to, like, my meals are primarily a meat and a carb. Like, I mean, usually we lean towards grains, but I sub that out for potatoes all the time.
Hmm.
We didn't grow enough potatoes that we had any in storage this
Not
year,
from
so it
this year.
hasn't been heavily focused on potatoes. But um like I usually do rice or a bread or quinoa or some kind of
Hmm.
grain. So it makes sense that if you're growing potatoes, like it kind of goes with that. And then the other stuff can be turned into soups, like the
Yeah.
tomatoes and peppers.
You started like when I think a lot of this started when you were interested in figuring out how do you break down a whole chicken and
Hmm.
use a whole chicken to turn into meals and then realize like you can stretch it into multiple meals.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
that is the most effective way to eat chicken at a value based.
I could stretch it into, oops, I could stretch it into multiple meals whenever we were a family of four. And I feel like maybe we were buying bigger chickens or maybe we just didn't eat as much because there was,
We definitely
well, you
didn't
know
need this.
what? The two kids we had were very little at that time.
Mm,
So they weren't eating as much. So it was mostly you and me eating. So that's probably what it was. Because I could get two or three meals out of a chicken.
probably right. Yeah.
And now I really can only get one.
Sometimes it feels like even less than one.
I know,
And
but then I'll cover it in water after I slow cook my chickens because it is the easiest thing for me to do. It perfectly pulls off the bone and I can just throw it into a soup or on top of
so
rice or
good.
potatoes. And then I cover the bones and all the juices with water and let that sit for a couple hours, and then that's bone broth for the next couple days for
Right.
us. And I try to do it like once a week, once or twice a week.
Right. But what's
But
like all that to be said, so there's certain things that store well that you can grow and keep kind of in abundance.
Mhm.
There's other things that don't store particularly well, and they're really like they're really well enjoyed for certain things in their season. Like I'm thinking immediately like watermelons. I
Yeah.
love growing watermelons. Probably one of my favorite things to grow, honestly. I love the taste of a watermelon.
And I love that you get to watch it like pop out as this little teeny tiny baby watermelon, and you get to go check on it every day, and you can literally see it
They
growing every day.
they grow really
And the
quickly too.
anticipation is so exciting because I very rarely will buy watermelon outside of the season where we are growing it. So like I'm just saying like I am waiting for that time where the watermelons are ripe because that's the only
Yeah.
time of year I'm eating watermelon. Ours are way better than anything you get at the store too.
Everything is better if you grow it.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone earlier today, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm just really interested in like just starting with something. Like we're just gonna grow a tomato." And I was like, "Man, that's gonna be the best tomato you've ever had."
Literally.
I don't even like tomatoes, but
I mean,
I'll eat tomatoes. Like I don't like tomatoes that we've bought,
no.
but I'll
You
walk
love
out
the
there and
waters.
eat a tomato off the vine, and it tastes so good.
Yeah, there is. I definitely think there's a sense of the pride of like, I put work and effort into this, and now I get to reap the reward of my efforts.
I know,
But
but I think it also
there,
tastes
the
better.
flavor is just not there in the grocery stores.
Yeah.
It's, it's
I
not.
think that's just a natural consequence of time to you eating it from time it was harvested, and
Well,
it was
there's,
also grown in a different location. And I'm sure there's something there about the different soil and the nutrients in the
yeah,
soil.
there's a lot that can go into
Probably.
what makes that difference. But something that I have really been thinking about that I feel like the more we the longer we do this and the more I think about shifting into like everything that we eat. I'm always thinking about if I was making this, there's a lot that I buy that we don't make ourselves, primarily dairy products. I make our own yogurt and
Mhm.
ice cream, and that's about it. I haven't gotten very far into processing dairy.
I don't think you need to process it into anything else except for ice cream.
Okay. Well, we still eat sour cream and cheese and cottage cheese.
I okay, I like all those things, but
It can't
ice
all go
cream,
to ice cream. Like,
ice cream from like fresh ice cream from raw milk is
okay, but
so
even that.
good.
Oh, butter. I'm forgetting about butter. I've made butter. I just don't regularly make butter because I don't like straining the butter. I need to practice more
Well,
and figure out getting the water out of it.
once we get a new dairy cow and we have
Yeah,
three, four, five,
I'm
6 gallons of
gonna get
milk a day,
yes.
mm,
But butter is a perfect example of what I'm getting at. So, what all of this has forced me to reflect on a lot of is the idea of temperance, especially when it comes to food.
mm,
And I've thought about I got into this the other day in my mind because I was thinking about the cheese that I'm buying and the different ways that they can make the rennet that's used to make the cheese.
mm,
So I've never known much about cheese making, but as I'm learning about it, I've learned that you need rennet in order to make cheese. And I learned that rennet comes from the stomach of a baby animal, usually a cow, but
mm.
I think they might be able to use it from lambs. But I'm also pretty sure it has to be like the stomach of a baby animal that hasn't had anything but colostrum. Like it's a very young animal.
Really?
So the whole point of that is that you're going to have a limited amount of rennet.
Mm,
Like it's not gonna be like this animal that you grew out, let it raise up for a year so you can have the meat and then you use this whatever is in the stomach for the rennet.
mm.
This is a very limited thing that you have available in order to use to make your cheese for however long. I don't know how far it stretches. But so I'm looking at what type of rennet is used in the cheeses that I'm buying from the store, and I realize a lot of the cheese at the store is not using animal rennet. They've found ways to get rennet from vegetables. They have found ways to get rennet from chemicals. I haven't gone deep into the study of all of this, but it makes me realize like maybe cheese should be a little bit of a more limited thing in our diets. Maybe it's not something that we should have like as much access to as we want. We can put cheese
Hmm.
on anything because when you think about what it takes to make the cheese, how much rennet you can get, it's the same thing with butter. You need the cream to make your butter.
Mm-hmm.
And I have stopped mentally complaining about the cost of butter because I buy my milk and I get it with the cream because I buy it raw. And I have to sacrifice if I'm taking all that cream to make it into butter. Now I don't have cream in my milk.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just feel like the understanding of the value of my butter now, I'm like, yeah, I understand if I have to pay a little bit extra for butter because cream is a limited resource.
Right.
It's not like you can get as much cream as you want.
Yeah. Well, that's like all the other things too. Like um, we sell the pork, but you can't. Not everybody can get bacon. There's only a small
Yeah.
amount of bacon
The
on
fact
a
that you
pig.
can walk into any grocery store any day at any time and you're gonna get bacon is wild to me.
Yeah, because it's a very small part of the animal, and there's not a lot of bacon on a pig. I mean, like what becomes bacon, it comes from the stomach of the pig. There's one stomach, so there's not a
Yeah.
lot there. The same as with chicken breast. You
Yeah.
know, if
Yeah.
people wonder why farm, even ours, right? Like our chicken breast is more expensive than any other cut, but you can almost get the whole chicken for the price of the chicken breast, and that's because if you the chicken is more than the chicken breast. There's
Yeah. Well,
feet.
everyone wants the chicken breast. So if we sold the chicken breast cheaper, we wouldn't have any chicken breast, and then we'd have all these cuts that people don't like as much.
Right. But then if you bought the whole chicken, you would get everything
Mm-hmm.
and you would use everything. But
Mm-hmm.
what's interesting about it is like, there's so much more nutrition in the chicken than is only available in the chicken breast because it's a
Yeah.
lean meat with certain like nutrient profile. But then you have the drumsticks, you have the thighs, you have the wings, you have,
To mention the bones, when you cook meat on a
yep.
bone, you get more nutrients in it
Well,
than
I
if
think
you take
flavor
it off.
too. I think you get a lot more
Yeah.
flavor. And then you get the stock from it
Yeah.
too, like the
Which
bone broth.
that in itself makes the cost of a whole chicken worth it.
But my point is, then if you were, let's say you were just eating that, like you were feeding just yourself as like a single person, there's a natural temperance there because you're not going to sit down and eat a whole 4 pound chicken in one meal. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to eat the breasts for one meal, maybe one of them, and then the other on another meal. Then you'll eat the drumsticks for another meal. Then you'll eat the thighs for another meal. You might split that into two meals,
Mm-hmm.
but you would naturally rotate through those cuts and get different nutrients and different like amounts of fat, and that probably helps to equal out a more healthy all-around diet. But it also just kind of detaches you from the expectation that you'll always get exactly what you want,
Yeah.
so you don't always get the chicken breast, which is
Yeah.
important. And I think that's what we were talking about, like the temperance of the land. Like there's watermelon has a season. So like you'll hear this eat in season, but I've never really connected it until we came out here to like this like the spiritual life and virtues and things like that. But there's a natural, like the land and the cycles of the land forces you to remember to that detachment is going to be built into this lifestyle because
Mm-hmm.
you can't always have a watermelon when it's not watermelon time.
Yeah. Well, any of it, you,
And if you want more of something, like because you're thinking, hey,
yeah.
we can't grow this in the winter, well, then you have to intentionally put together extra effort
Yes, you have
and
to
sacrifice space.
plan ahead, be
Yeah,
intentional. Yeah, you have to plan space in the garden, space in the larder, space like
Yeah.
you have to really think it through. But also there is a natural tendency of like taking a break from things because like even with a dairy
Mm.
cow, your cow has to dry up unless you just have it where you're rotating animals, which can make sense sometimes, but it's still, or sometimes your cow gets sick and you need
Hmm.
to take a break or you need to dump the milk and you have to take a break and you have to be flexible and be
Yeah.
okay with not now we don't have milk this week or whatever comes with that.
Hmm.
The same thing with all of the meat. We store up meat and then we run out of it until the next time that we have it again. And then
Right.
there's just a, I think there's temperance and there's also self-denial that you're practicing.
Well, and it's a constant lesson in detachment too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the big one. We raise beef, so we'll go out there and we'll get a beef and we'll put beef in the freezer and we'll have beef for a certain amount of time. And then there will come that moment where you have eaten like it's all gone. That's it. And so then you look out in the fields and you don't have another one ready to go yet. It's going to be a few months.
Hmm.
So instead, you start eating something different.
Yeah.
Another an easy example for this is the eggs.
Oh yeah.
Because right now, what we've done for the last 3 years is we haven't supplemented light for the chickens. So that means that they lay in relationship to nature, basically. They need about 14, I think it's about 14 hours of light a day. And for us, that seems to,
We
if,
get November through January off
yeah,
basically from eggs.
yeah. So basically, they stop laying in November, like the first week in November, none in December, none in January, and then they start about the second week in February.
Yeah, a couple early achievers will start
Yeah.
early in February.
So now so now it's
March.
early March, and we just went from like no
No
eggs at
eggs.
all to all of a sudden we have dozens and
Yeah.
dozens and dozens of eggs everywhere. Our
Yeah.
meals are now full of eggs. We're back into that. But so we had like a break from eggs though for
Hmm.
3.5 months or so,
Yeah.
and now it's egg season.
Which has been hard for me the last couple years. It's hard to adjust to thinking about how doing meals differently without eggs. And
Hmm.
even like the last couple weeks I was buying eggs because like the temptation to just want to fill in those gaps in our diet with eggs instead of something else. I mean, it's not perfect. We don't have a perfect system set up, so I don't think it's wrong, but I
No one should feel
appreciate
that's
the
wrong.
challenge of pushing myself to think more creatively about cooking and eating and trying to understand nutrients better so I can understand like I don't have eggs so I can do this instead and even like pushing ourselves out of our box of like these are breakfast foods
Mm,
instead of being like you can have chicken for breakfast even though it's not sausage and eggs.
yeah, but I'm also really looking forward to some sausage.
Yeah.
We've got a whole lot of pork coming into
So
stock.
far, so far pork has been a very seasonal treat for our family because we haven't bought very on special occasions. I'll get pork from someone so that
Very
for
rare.
like a birthday or
Very rare. Very
a
specific about the
celebration.
pork we eat, which is partly why we raise pork and so much of it.
Yeah, but it's fun that time of year when we harvest a pig and have some
Yeah.
pork in the house.
Now, another part of that too, so like on the pig thing is so this year we are now at the point where we have before the next group of pigs goes to processing or before we process them, we already have a new litter of pigs born and they're already growing. We've got some pigs like halfway in between that group now. So we've got like a rotation of pigs going to offer us pork year round. That is a little bit that's almost more akin to like planting the storage crops and putting them away.
Hmm.
And that's partly because pigs are one of those animals where you can keep them doing that as long as you own the breeding stock. And that's why, so like right now we have a boar and we have two sows and we just added two gilts to it. So to increase the pig
Yeah.
population here. But, that, it's just, like for me, there's almost been this like mental reprieve I've noticed entering into a season, exiting a season as the food kind of wanes and new things come in. I've really enjoyed it. It has really forced me to like look ahead and be excited for the future, but also appreciate the present and what we
Hmm.
have. And then also consider lessons learned and things we could have done better. This year, I'm very, very focused on building good systems to produce a lot of quantity of, staple foods for ourselves to put away.
And
It,
we're trying to reduce, uh, how would you put it? Like weeds, for example, ruined our garden last year. And so we're
yeah.
trying to set up a system so that we're like one step ahead to
Hmm.
reduce the weeds. So we're not like behind because we have
Yeah.
to keep up with weed. It's,
Good systems.
yeah.
Yeah, we've done each year we've done something really like each year for the last I don't know 10 years or so. Like something has really taken like a dominating uh it was like in the foreground,
Hmm.
right? Like this last 3 years we've been so hyper focused on building the farm business and
Hmm.
we've gotten to a point where it's starting to grow now, I think very organically. And before that, we were doing an awesome job growing all kinds of food in
Yeah.
very small spaces.
Our garden was really good.
Like our gardens in Cincinnati when we lived in the suburbs in the city were just overflowing. It was incredible.
Thanks to him. You're
But
the garden
w-
guy.
but but because we kind of lost focus, instead we were running, just huge groups of animals and focus on that, kind of lost focus on what makes good gardens productive. And this year, I'm excited to really build a good focus on that. I'm very focused on filling our own pantries.
Well, it's something to note. I think a lot of people have easier access to gardening and growing vegetables than to raising animals for
Hmm.
food. And I think that's a great thing because there's a lot of foundational things that you learn in growing a garden and raising food in that way.
I actually think often it's more difficult to have a productive garden
Hmm.
than to raise animals. Like I think sometimes it's easier to do the animals, but then they'll like break a fence or get out of a fence, and then I think it's easier to grow something that can't move.
Yeah, I think that I don't know that I agree because we shifted because we took on animals and we didn't even have pets hardly. We had like a cat
Right.
before. And so there's a lot to learn with having animals, with fencing and processing them and breeding them. Like all of that is new stuff. Moving them, rotational grazing adds a whole nother level to it.
Hmm.
And then we had gardens, but it makes you just naturally lean towards like prioritizing the animals because they're like living, breathing things that like if you ignore them, they die and it feels worse than if your plants die. You're like, well, that sucks, but like it's a plant.
Hmm.
We'll try again next year. It feels the responsibility feels different.
Yeah, I mean, I
But
agree.
the reality is we've always had something that grew well that we were eating off of in the garden. Like it'd be nice if we would have had the foresight to be like, let's only grow four things in the garden. And then we'll put all of our effort towards the animals.
Yeah.
Instead, we tried to still grow everything and only four things
Yeah.
survived.
Well,
But
maybe that's why we talk about the same things over and over. Those
potatoes.
potatoes
You
and
know
pepper
what
and
though?
garlic.
We haven't we haven't done great with tomatoes here. Cucumbers. The one year we had
Yeah, we
so
did pretty
many
good with
cucumbers,
cucumbers.
I was trying to make sorbet out of cucumbers because I'm like, what else can I do?
Did
And
not. It wasn't. It
the
wasn't.
family was not a fan of
No.
cucumber mint sorbet.
No, I think we should stick to the raw milk ice cream on the sweet dessert,
Yeah.
frozen dessert spectrum.
Yeah. Pickles. We'll just do lots of pickles.
Oh, I love pickles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real lesson I think that we can take away from living on the land, working on the land, engaged in agriculture. It's not just cliche. There's real seasons, and with those seasons come excitements and things to look forward to, and they also each involve certain preparations for future seasons. Like one of it's we're coming out of winter. Now is about the latest time. Like now is like like major focus right now is actually on procuring wood for next winter.
Yeah, well,
You
for
need to do it
us,
now.
we live off of wood heat, and we ran out of wood 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Hmm.
And it was fine. It got warm, and then it got really cold again.
Yeah,
Like we had a limited amount of
we were
wood.
really having to. We've never had to do that before. We were really rationing our wood
Yeah.
and thinking like, what's going to be the wisest use of this
Yeah.
wood to heat up this house or heat up the space in a certain amount of time, and then we made it through just fine. I mean, it's
Well, the
not a
good thing, it
problem,
was
but
the end of winter, so
yeah, it was the very
we
end.
were kind of adjusted to the cold, so I think we were all doing better, and we just bundled up and we used space heaters a little more than we typically would. But
Mhm.
we're in that like in between period where we don't have a garden going right now, and all of the brush and weeds aren't growing up and crowding up the space in the woods right now. So it actually makes sense that this is the time where you're not having to step away from like the garden and the animals
Mhm.
to go cut wood. It makes sense that this would be the time that you go cut the wood, you let it like season out
Right.
the rest of the year, and then it's ready by November.
Right. Yeah, everything has it seems to be this. I mean, realistically, God's in charge. The design is just perfect. It's so beautiful.
Hmm.
And obviously climates are different in different places,
Yeah.
but it just seems so clear in this. We're in zone 6 B now, and it just is so clear with 4 seasons what needs to be done in which season, and what excitements are going to be there, and what things you can look forward to, and what you're going to harvest and what you're going to do. It's just so routine. And I think it's one of the great benefits of living where we do and where this farm is set up. Well, that's a great conversation. Hopefully that's helpful to other people. There's just, a lot of thoughts about how the land really offers you the opportunity to recognize these spiritual truths in a very practical way. I'm very excited about that. I'm very thankful for it. I love this.
Me too. And I'm looking forward to this coming spring. We can feel it and hear it coming.
It's here.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us on another episode.
Thank you for joining us on the Cottagers Podcast. For more information on today's episode, check out the show notes or visit us at cottagepastures.com. We look forward to you joining us on the next episode.